little thing you get going
All
on.
righty. Hey, Fairbanks, how you guys doing? Fairbanks, North Star Burr, how you guys doing? All right, coming to you live from the HooDoo Brew Studios. This is 36 the Podcast. Now, I'm your host, Tilden.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Brandon.
And we are 36 the Podcast. Now, we have a special guest with us today, the owner of and the one who created HooDoo Brewery. His name is Bobby. How are you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing fantastic.
All right, it's nice to have you with us today. So before we get into our interview with Bobby, let's explain a little bit about 36 the Podcast and why it came about. So first of all, before I get into why 36 the Podcast first came out, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Bobby, particularly for this table right here. So the thing about this table right here, this is a community table, and there are no other tables like this at any, not to take away from any of the other breweries, but there are no other community tables like this, which encourages total strangers to get together and have conversations or engage with conversations that they hear going on around the table. There is no other place like that offers this type of engagement for your customers. And so I find myself when I go to other places, not to mention any names, if I sit at my table by myself, I'm there by myself. And nobody comes up, nobody engages in conversation. And I'm just sitting there, I drink my little beer, and I leave. But when I come here and you sit around this table, this community table, there's no telling who you can meet. So thank you for whoever created this idea right here. This was a good idea.
Yeah, it was one of those last minute things. We were about to open the brewery and oh crap, we probably need some tables or something. So then we saw an electrical spool and we're like, I wonder if we can get a few of those. And we found a few, and this one kind of rolled right through the door there. The bigger one that we split in half, we had to cut it in half to get it in the door.
Yep.
But we thought they would just be temporary tables just for now kind of thing, but they've turned into kind of a fixture. Yeah, and it's a perfect size, you're right.
This is awesome because this encourages just total strangers, just not being strangers anymore, just through conversation and over 36 ounces of beer. And so I will say this too. We do not encourage you to come out and drink 36 ounces of beer. If beer is not your thing, there are alternatives here. For one, hot water, which is very tasty, I might add. And I did try the hot water during the dry January thing, which was very good. And then they also have root beer as well, too. So there's more than just 36 ounces of beer that you could drink. But however, having come here and the people that you meet, and you're drinking and you're having discussions over 36 ounces of beer. So that's where the name 36 Ounce the Podcast came from. It was just Jeff, Brandon, myself, and we were sitting around one day just having random conversations. And we were like, hey, we could make a podcast about this.
I think one of us made a joke about it, and then it just kind of evolved into this.
Yes, exactly. So that's where we are today. And so that's how 36 the Podcast came about. So without further delay, so basically what's going to happen and the concept of this podcast is we invite a different guest speaker every episode. And of course, we're going to talk about the 5 W's, who, what, why, when, and where. And then if we delve deeper in the conversation and the discussions, then that's what we're going to do. But for the most part, the interesting people that call the Fairbanks community home, we hope to have them all involved with this podcast and get you out here to speak about what it is you do in the community and how you help the community grow. So without further avail, our first guest speaker for the first episode is Bobby. Bobby, what's your last name?
Wilken.
Bobby Wilken. And Bobby Wilken, he is the founder of HooDoo Brewing Company. And so who are you? Who are you?
Who am I?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Okay. And so who as far as your upbringing, what led you to where you are right now?
Well, I was born here in Fairbanks, and went to college graduated from West Valley, and went to college at the University of Montana in Missoula, and then found found a couple cool breweries down there, and they would Montana has similar laws to Alaska alcohol-wise. All the laws are different in every state, but they would at this brewery called Big Sky Brewery, they would give you you could taste all the beers you want. They couldn't sell pints, and but you could have little tasters for free.
Oh, so you couldn't even buy a pint
No,
there?
everybody would just kind of be drinking these tiny little drinks, and then you could
Really?
you could get a growler of beer to go.
Yeah.
But it was just a tasting room. So, but we'd go all the time because it was free.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, free beer.
Yeah.
So you drank a lot of Moose Drool there.
Moose Drool, yeah, drank a lot of Moose Drool.
Oh,
Yep.
so you know about this place?
I went to college in Butte.
Oh, did you?
Oh.
Yeah. So you had Big Sky Brewery, and they had Moose Drool,
Yeah.
Powder Hound, and a couple others. I want to say their IPA is called Speed Goat, and it's pronghorn.
Yeah, Scapegoat, Slow
Yeah.
Elk. Yep.
Yeah, all those. I did like the Slow Elk
Yeah.
label because it was a cow with a pair of elk antlers.
Yeah,
tied
that
to
was a
its
good
head.
one. Yep.
Then let's see, which is the one that had Black Dog? It was in Bozeman.
Yeah, it's in Bozeman. Yeah. And then
Spanish
there's
Peaks.
Yeah, Spanish Peaks. Yep. And in Missoula there was Bayern, and Kettle House was another brewery in Missoula.
What was that one? It's out of town with a K. Can't remember what the name of it is.
Oh, up in
Bitter Brewery.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that was fun because we went to a bar one night, and one of the guys that we hung out with is friends of the owner of that brewery. And they're having a big promotion at the bar. Buy a pint and get a free glass. And I think I spent $10 that night, and we just kept getting free beer. It's always important to have good connections.
Of course. Of course.
Okay, now so was it your plan to come back to Fairbanks after you left, or?
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty deep roots here. My big family here, and my then girlfriend, now wife, Jessica. She has big family up here too, and we've loved it up here. And so when we went away to school, it was always the plan to come back.
Okay, now so the brewery thing happened while you were
Yeah,
away.
we just kind of got interested in breweries. I just thought it was really neat, and kind of started appreciating drinking beer and the different flavors, and then learned about home brewing. And I had no idea how beer was made or anything. And started home brewing down there in college. And when you're home brewing, you're kind of thinking it's a way to get some free beer, but it's actually a lot of work, and it's not free at all.
yeah.
Very expensive beer.
It's expensive beer, yeah, and a lot of work and a mess.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, home brewing down there, and then when we came back here, I got Jessica and I both got jobs right away, and I was a research analyst at a company called Information Insights downtown here, and did that for a few years, but
Okay,
always trying to figure out how to start a brewery.
Okay, now so your background was your background science?
It was business
okay.
information systems, kind of database management, tech, kind of business information systems. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is my
Okay.
degree.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so I noticed that you're drinking a beer.
Yep.
And since this is a podcast while sipping on beer, what are your preferences as far as beer goes? And so let's go back to, because I know you didn't offer all of these beers when you first opened up. What was your initial offering when you first opened, and what do you prefer?
Yeah, the day we opened with the Kolsch and the American IPA, which are still our flagship beers, our best-selling beers. But as we were building out this building and building out the brewery, it took about 2 years from when we purchased the building and started, actually physically working on it. But during those 2 years, I had my home brewing system, and I was brewing all sorts of batches of. We wanted a light beer and an IPA. We have to have a light beer and an IPA.
Okay.
So I started. A few years before that, we had gone to Oktoberfest in Munich, and on our way there, we stopped in Cologne, Germany, which is where Kolsch comes from. Kolsch basically means that it's Cologne's beer.
Right, okay.
So we stopped there and had a great time and drank a lot of Kolsch, and we were like, man, when we start our brewery someday, that should be our light beer.
Okay.
So when we were building out this brewery, I started brewing all sorts of Kolsch, researching it, and starting to make Kolsch recipes. and then dialing in our recipe. And then the same process for the IPA. I had a few IPAs that I really loved, and over the years had kind of figured out what hops are in that IPA, because I love that IPA, and kind of finding out through the brewery itself any ingredient information I can get, and the hops in our IPA are Centennial hops.
Right.
And I've realized that I just love Centennial hops. They're my favorite.
Okay.
So then our IPA was going to feature that, and I like it when IPAs have a little caramely flavor, nice West Coast IPA. And so same thing, just went through a bunch of iterations of homebrewing those to kind of come up with our final recipe. And then when it came time to brew our first batches on the system, that's what we brewed first, and that's what we came out with first. So we had those 2 beers on, and I think a week or 2 later we had a Saison come on, and then we ran out of Kolsch, and then, so we had 2 or 3 beers on for a while. And it slowly kind of grew as we figured out the
Now, so I see you guys don't offer the Saison anymore.
We do occasionally, and we're planning on doing it this spring.
Okay, all right.
That's
so that is seasonal beer.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Kolsch and IPA, our goal is to never run out. Always have them every time. And then the stout we usually have, I'd say 99% of the time. Sometimes we'll run out briefly, but the more beers you kind of guarantee and say we are never running out of this, it gets a little more difficult,
right?
Because you need to have tanks behind a batch of beer behind this batch of beer, and you have to time all that. And so so we have 2 that we do that with, and stout we try, and then some beers we make each year, like the Maibach or the Oktoberfest, the Weiss beer we usually make every summer, but sometimes we don't. Same with the Saison. Sometimes maybe not. Some things get rebrewed every year, some things every few years, because we want to try new things too.
Okay, now so do you guys make a Hefeweizen here?
Yeah, the Weiss is a Hefeweizen. It's a Bavarian Hefeweizen.
Okay, because I know. So I spent. So I was in Germany. From 96 to 99, and that first time I ever had a Hefeweizen, and so we had a beer guy, and he would drop the beer off at our patio and take the empty bottles and replace them with filled bottles, and they called it a rack of beer.
Yeah.
And so we would order, and so you had a subscription, and so I had a subscription for a rack of beer, and so I remember my first time tasting a Hefeweizen, and looking at, when you turn it upside down, you can see all the wheat and everything just fall from the bottom to the other side. And it's that was my first time ever saying to myself, this is a good tasting beer.
Yeah.
However, I was active duty military at the time, so we did physical training every day. So it didn't build up on you. But Hefeweizen, it's a good tasting beer, and there's a lot of wheat in it, but good Lord, if you don't exercise, you're going to blow up. Yeah. For real.
Yeah, having a Hefeweizen in Germany is perfect. They are so good over there.
Yeah, you could eat that for dinner.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, so as far as for future plans, what are your thoughts on here expanding? Because I know you guys do pop-ups throughout the state.
Yeah, we do go to beer festivals and things like that. We ever since the beginning of the brewery when we opened in 2012, it's just been a constant evolution. We've done very little major expansions. In 2015 we started canning on a small canning machine. In 2017, we installed the beer garden, which was a huge project for us, but still incremental, And then in 2020, we did a capacity upgrade. So up till 2020, the summers was very difficult for us to keep up with volume. So we would run out of beers, and we would have to say no to lots of bars and restaurants around town that wanted our beers. And saying no is pretty tough, because you really want to supply your beer all over the place. That's kind of the goal. So we're saying no for years. Nope, we just can't handle that volume. And then so in 2020 we installed 2 more tanks in the back of the brewery that increased our volume 50%.
Oh wow!
So ever since then we really have no problem with volume. Summers are still very intense because definitely more beer consumption in the summer, but we're able to keep up. We're able to offer our beer to really any bar and restaurant around town. But as far as future plans, as you kind of mentioned, we got that liquor license, and really no huge plans for that. Really just to have the flexibility for the future,
right,
to do things. So we're not really looking at huge expansion plans. It's just kind of just always trying to make things a little better.
Right,
it's just a constant goal.
So two things. I want to talk a little bit on your license and your plans.
Yeah.
I would really like to say, as a longtime customer, don't change anything.
Yeah.
Like this, I love the ambiance. Like Tilden said, we get to sit around meeting people. That's great. But I wanted to take a step back a little bit, back to kind of when you were learning to brew. Kind of gathered you was all self-taught. You didn't go to any schools or work.
No, I did go to a school. I homebrewed for a long time, and then when I was back here in Fairbanks, and I was just, I kind of had a job in a cubicle, and I wasn't really into that. I was kind of like,
I know the feeling.
I think I have to do something else, and I started. Anybody can. I guess I just kind of got to this point where I think I can do it. If anybody can do it, I think I can do it. So now I just have to figure it out.
Right.
I need to figure out how to start a business and figure out how to start a brewery. So then I'd make business plans. I don't know where you buy a beer tank, and I don't know how you do it really. So then it was very frustrating, and then I was like, is there a brewing school somewhere? Okay. And so you search for that. Sure enough, there's brewing schools. So I applied to the Siebel Institute in Chicago, and they have a program that's about 2 months in Chicago and 2 months in Munich. So I applied to this program and got accepted, and then I got a scholarship to it. And so then I went to my wife. I was like, I think I want to go to this school, and maybe it'll help us maybe someday open a brewery. And then I talked to my job, and they gave me 4 months off. They said, you can go do it and then come back. You'd have your job back, but you should go do that. They were supportive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was
That's
awesome.
really cool, then.
So, yeah, it was really great. So I went and did that, went to the school for 4 months, this brewing school. And then when I got back, I knew a lot of, I knew kind of the technology and the science and the mechanics of it. But I'd got a lot of advice on that journey that if you're going to try and start a brewery, because I met a lot of people on that trip, you should try and work at a brewery. Do anything, pour the pints or mop the floor or clean the kegs or anything. So just go work at a brewery. So I decided to just wait and try and do that. So then I applied to breweries all over the country, trying to stay in Alaska, and eventually got hired at Alaskan Brewing down in Juneau.
Oh, okay.
And then I worked there for about 5 years as a brewer. I was a brewer for 3 years. And then worked in the lab for about 2 years.
Okay, so I just want to add, and just to what Brandon asked. Okay, so a lot of people would assume that this basically happened overnight, and so I'm listening to you and the time frames of these things that are that are happening. What from the time you left Fairbanks, you went to college, graduated from college, up until now, what has the time, because you said you worked at a brewery in Juneau for 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
So how long between then and you opening this, how much time had transpired?
Well, I remember when we made our first batch of homebrew, I was super jazzed about it. I was really excited about it, and we even made labels for it, and we still have a couple of those labels. And when we were bottling it, we were just like, this is so awesome, and it was Jessica and I and my roommates. At that time, we were like, that'd be really cool to have a brewery in Fairbanks, and this is probably 1999. When we first started talking about it.
All right.
But it's pipe dream. I was 19 or 20 years old, so it wasn't, I don't know how to do any of that. But then graduated from school in 2003, and then got moderately serious about it, trying to get out of my desk job. Mm-hmm. And then I went to this brewing school in 2005.
Okay.
So 2005 was when I started committing that I'm going to try and do this someday, just taking small steps forward to just, if it's going to happen, then it'll happen. I'll just keep working on it. So 2005, went to the school. Then I worked in Juneau 2006 to 2011. And then bought this building in July 2011.
Oh,
we opened in October 2012.
Got
So,
you.
I mean, it was 10 years.
Got you.
of
Okay.
kinda
Okay.
seriously working
So
on
it didn't happen overnight.
No.
Okay.
So speaking of opening in October, was you opened October 31st, correct?
Yep,
So
Halloween.
was there a reason why you picked Halloween to open, or is that just how it fell?
It was really, yeah, when we got the building and we did kind of the basic design, started doing demo, working on the building, ordered all the equipment. All the equipment is custom. So we ordered all that. We got that in February 2012, and we were nowhere near ready. So then we just kept working on it, and we're just going to open as soon as we can. And the summer comes, we're still working on it. We're completely out of money, just trying to finish it so we can open the doors. And it got to about early October. Well, in early September, we brewed our first batches, September 2012, September 2nd. And then early October, we were kind of feeling like we were getting close. We were trying to finish this room off so we could open the doors, get a certificate of occupancy from the city. But it was feeling like we were close, and we had no more money. Like we got to open as soon as possible. So then we decided to start setting some serious deadlines. We're going to be here 24 hours a day. We got to finish this and open these doors as soon as possible. So each day was like, we're going to finish this. We had all these task lists. And this is just my wife and I, a couple of friends, really a small crew. We were doing everything ourselves.
Oh, so you didn't hire a contractor?
We had a carpenter, and he did all this, a lot of the carpentry work because I have no experience doing that. Mm-hmm. He did a lot of great work. A Fairbanks guy, a friend named Sean. But it was very bare bones. It was just a few of us doing more or less everything. I don't know if you know Joe Paul. He comes in here all the time, but he did all the paint work, painted the ceiling, which was a huge project. But then we
I grabbed one.
Then we started getting kind of, I think it was October 20th or something like that. We finally got a certificate of occupancy from the city, so we were good to open any time. But we didn't have a menu board. There was no beer in kegs. We didn't, the bar wasn't done. So then we had about 10 days, and we just kind of picked a date. We said, well, we can probably open in a week, but let's just open on Halloween. That sounds kind of cool. We just picked a day. We just kind of picked a day and be like, that'd be a fun anniversary every year, be on Halloween.
Yeah.
So we just picked a day. We said we're going to open that day, and then and we didn't tell anybody that. It was I think we told our family the day before it. We're going to open tomorrow. Our families and close friends. We had a soft opening, I think, a day or two before, and then at 10 a.m. on Halloween, we put a social media posts out that just said we're going to be open at 3:00 today.
Yeah.
And that was it. So
Nice. Well, congratulations on how many years is this?
12. Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations to you, sir. Congratulations. And here's the 12. Well, many more than 12.
Many more, yeah.
Many more.
Which it's actually been a lot of information. I didn't realize you guys put so much hard work into this, and so as a longtime patron, thank you.
Yeah.
You guys have turned into one of my most favorite breweries ever.
I know. Thank you.
I'm gonna
love
tell
the
you what
IPA.
though. So I'm not really I'm not really an IPA guy.
You should be.
So I come here
Yet.
and they automatically get me my Kolsch. And so when I deviate from that, I get strange looks sometimes. But today, in honor of our first broadcast, I decided to go with the Flight.
I like it.
And let's see here. I got the Helles Lager, I got the Bavarian Visor, I got the Session IPA, and I got the Oatmeal Stout. So
Perfect.
I believe that this is the Oatmeal Stout right
Yep,
here.
that's
Okay,
it.
so I'm going to go with the Oatmeal Stout right here, and we're going to take a little sippy sip of the Oatmeal Stout.
Attaboy.
Okay, that's good.
It's different, huh?
Yeah, it's good. It's so it's a little dark. But it's lighter than a Guinness though. Is that what you were going after? Like
Yeah, it's stouts kind of have a range of flavors. So
Right.
Stouts usually have some sort of a roasty component, so
Yes.
that's kind of a coffee flavor.
Yes.
And ours does have that. But they can also have kind of a roasty bitterness, which ours doesn't really have. Kind of an acrid bitterness.
Oh,
Ours
okay.
is very smooth.
okay, what about that head though? Or is it because it's been sitting?
Yeah, I mean it's been sitting a little while.
Okay.
But it's it's an oatmeal. There's a style. It's an oatmeal stout and then a cream stout. This is an oatmeal cream stout. It's both.
Oh, okay.
So it's got about 10% of the grain is just rolled oats, kind of like Quaker oatmeal, essentially just rolled oats.
Okay.
So that adds kind of a creaminess, kind of a silkiness to it. And oatmeal stouts are very a good mouthfeel, very satisfying.
Okay.
And then cream stouts or milk stouts they're called. During the fermentation, the yeast will only ferment kind of the simplest of sugars and turn them into alcohol. But in a cream stout or a milk stout, we add lactose, which is milk sugar, which is sugar that is derived out of milk. We'll add a little bit into the boil kettle during the boil, dissolve it into the boil before the fermentation, and then as the beer ferments, the yeast can't ferment lactose, so it's basically just left dissolved in the beer. This sugar, and lactose isn't like table sugar. It's sweet, but it's really a very creamy sweetness. If you taste some, it's about a third of the sweetness as table sugar, sucrose.
Okay.
So lactose has this nice creamy, light, smooth sweetness. It's really good. And so that's left in the beer. It doesn't ferment out, and so then you have this kind of creamy sweetness, and that with kind of that roasty coffee flavor. It's kind of a creamy coffee flavor.
Okay.
Is a great combination. It's kind of like your morning coffee. If you have cream in your coffee, it's delicious.
Gotcha,
so it's kind of what we're going for.
So
I was just gonna say I can see why a lot of people like that, especially coffee drinkers. Probably.
Yeah, it's delicious and it's really smooth.
Okay, so let's talk about your ingredients. Are there any local ingredients that you use? Or because of where we are, it's kind of sort of hard to.
It's pretty tough.
Source local.
We use local water.
Oh yeah. Boom. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Only the finest.
Exactly.
But you really don't. The whole, they grow barley out in Delta, but it's a different kind of grade of barley.
Okay.
When they're growing barley, all around the world, the best barley goes to brewing.
Okay.
And then the rest goes to food production and animal feed and things like that. But the kind of ratio of starch to protein in the barley kernels is very important. It has to be grown kind of perfectly, which is kind of tough to do in this climate. So we don't use currently any Delta barley. But I've heard through the grapevine there's someone out there working on making specialty grains. So
yes.
They're working on making those roasted malts and caramelized malts that are, every recipe has, it's the base of the recipe is called a base malt. So that's just kind of your the base of the beer. So it can be 50 to really 100% of the grain, but then you'll have specialty malts that give the beer different colors and flavors and things like that. So this, I think there's a group out in Delta. What I've heard is that they're going to try and make specialty malts out there, which if that actually happens, I would love to use local
awesome.
barley. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And hops are the same way. They grow in a specific band of latitude around the world. The biggest hop growing region is in Germany.
Okay.
And it's all about the light. Similar to cannabis, it has to go through a flowering process, and so it has to get the 12-12 cycle of light.
Okay.
And up here, once that happens, it'll be at freeze and it'll be dead. So it has to be in this perfect band. So Germany's the largest hop growing region. Then Yakima, Washington is the second largest in the world, and then New Zealand is a big hop growing area.
Okay, now so are hops typically imported in then?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah. We use. In the Kolsch or any of our German beers, all the grain comes from Germany, from Bamberg, Germany, and all the hops come from southern Germany.
Yeah.
And say, any English beers we make, let's say like the UK IPA, or we bring all the grain from England, just to give it the character of that place.
Oh, so this is like a major operation because you have to ensure that all your grains and everything are here on hand. They're constantly coming and
yes.
Oh my goodness,
it's challenging, logistically challenging for sure.
Oh wow! Now, so when you first opened up, did you realize how much went into this?
I don't know.
or did you just wing it and you learn as you go?
I think I had good exposure to it at Alaskan Brewing. Alaskan Brewing is a large brewery, much larger than this. So you could kind of see what was happening. They'd be getting grain deliveries all the time and ordering hops, and so I was able to get exposed to that. And this is on a much smaller scale, but you just kind of wing it and learn as you go.
Right,
you just kind of wing it and learn as you go. And now we have another building about a block behind us here on the next street over.
Oh wow! Yeah.
That's where we store grain, our empty cans. We have a couple of offices over there.
Yeah.
We store our big truck, Black Betty. We park that inside.
Okay. So you must have just acquired that because Black Betty used to sit out here.
Yeah, you sit out here all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
But now it parks inside over there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
What's even more awesome is you named it.
Yeah, I know. I think that got named the second we test drove it. We were like, oh, this is pretty cool. Black Betty. Ooh,
Nice.
we'll take it.
Okay, now so I know you guys do a lot of volunteering and you guys do a lot of donations in the community. What is your so how many programs do you have throughout the year that act as give back? Because you do something for the Fairbanks Community Food Bank, right?
Yeah, we do the reindeer and beer, where we got the reindeer in the beer garden, and folks can donate food or money to give to the food bank.
Yes.
We do the HooDoo Half Marathon's a big one. So
yes,
a lot of the proceeds from that go to United Way.
Okay.
The past few years, we've given $5,000 to the United Way. After that, we're constantly doing. Like any small business or even larger business, you're constantly being hit up for donations for raffles and fundraisers and nonprofits. So we're constantly have a flow of we usually giving away swag that they can then auction off and things like that. So we're constantly doing that. It's just trying to support those events and fundraisers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
All sorts of other stuff. It's not really the top of my head, but
Gotcha.
It's constant.
All right.
Well, the question I have is, you got the name for Black Betty there. What about the two fire trucks?
The two fire trucks. Story of those is, when we were working on the building, we kind of had this laundry list of stuff we need. Okay, we need to find some kegs. We need to find, this and that. We need to find tables. Everything. Just things we're checking off the list. We need a keg fridge. So then one of them was just to find a delivery truck of some kind to just deliver beer around town. And the idea was to look down in Seattle. It's always going to be kind of a project. It's just to keep our eyes out down there. It's just a big market and everything's down there. So that was the idea. Was one of these days we need to get a truck and drive it up. So Paul, who you guys might know, still working here. He was living in Seattle. He moved up to kind of help me finish off the brewery.
Okay. So
yeah,
Paul.
Yeah.
So is he friend, family? So when did he come into the HooDoo realm?
Yeah, early on he actually was married to my sister, so he was my brother-in-law. That's since gone the other way.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he still just sticks around. So he's kind of he's my ex-brother.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But he's still your brother.
He's still my brother. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so he's he came up and helped us finish off kind of all this million tasks. Kind of that final 6 months, I think he was up here, just helping us work on the building. And he's very very handy guy. Knows how to kind of build anything and be very resourceful. And so he had a buddy down in Seattle that drove one of these fire trucks around.
Yeah.
Just drove it around. That was his car. And he was having a beer one day. He was having a beer one day with this guy named Ryan in Seattle, and they were talking at the bar. And Ryan said he's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna sell my fire truck. I need to get a flatbed. He's a welder. He's gonna do some work that he needed a different truck for.
Yeah.
So Paul was like, oh well, Bobby's gonna open a brewery. He's looking for a delivery truck. Maybe that'd be the one. And so he texted me a bunch of pictures. Hey, my friend is selling this, and I was like, that is ridiculous. That thing's awesome, but no way. And then he was like, yeah, it only has 60,000 miles on it. Great condition. It's really awesome. So a few weeks later, I was going down to San Diego for something. And so I stopped in Seattle, and they got to drive the truck around. And I was like, oh, man, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I was like, let's do it. So we'll take it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we bought it from him and filled it with. This is a few months before we opened the brewery. Filled it with grain. We stopped at the kind of grain warehouse down there and filled it up with grain for our first batches of beer. And then Paul and I drove it up to Fairbanks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then the second one, I think it was 2 or 3 years later, I got an alert. I must have set an alert on eBay for a Mercedes 508D, which is what that is. And one day I got an email, hey, there's a Mercedes 508D on eBay. And I was like, oh, I must have set an alert. Huh, okay, I'll just check it out.
Yeah.
So there was another one in Orlando, Florida. And this guy had it in his warehouse. It had 7,000 miles on it. It was just,
wow.
I mean, and they're 1983, 1984, the 2 years of them.
Oh, nice.
So he had this one, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't need another fire truck. But then I kept thinking about it, and I'd go, and there was no bids on it. I was like, well, I got a bid on it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'll get it, you know what?
Yeah.
So I put a bid on it. Nobody else bid on it. I got it.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So then we shipped it to Seattle, and then Paul and I flew down and attempted to drive it all the way up, and about halfway up, just outside of Prince George, a big truck came around the corner and threw a rock up, and it hit right in the center of the windshield. The huge windshield on those things, and the windshields on those are tempered glass.
Oh.
So once it hits that, it just completely shatters. It doesn't just chip it. It just, you can't even see through it. It's just white.
Yeah.
So then we drove about 30 miles to the next town with our heads out the window because you couldn't see through. And then we ended up staying there for about a week trying to figure out what to do. This was in October of maybe 2015 or 16. And, nobody has a windshield like that anywhere.
Yeah,
So they couldn't find one in North America. So then they ordered one from Germany. It was going to be a few months. So then we flew back to Fairbanks and then eventually got the windshield to Fairbanks, and then we got the truck shipped to Fairbanks.
So is it still a tempered windshield though?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the only way to do it.
Oh, really?
It's really strong unless you hit
Okay.
it really hard.
Gotcha.
So,
With a really big rock.
With a really big rock, yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But they're pretty fun. One of these days we want to turn one into kind of where you roll up the door and you got the taps coming out the side. They're pretty much stock, but we want to kind of turn one into a little bit more of a festival vehicle.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't done that yet.
I know. It's
That's
on the
a really
list.
good idea.
It's on the list. It'd
Oh,
be pretty
we're
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool, man. That
Yeah.
would be pretty cool.
Fill us in a little bit on Saturday Cask, how that came about and
Yeah.
why you do it, and maybe particularly about this cast today.
Yeah, sounds good. So the Saturday cast, from what I remember, it's a long time ago, but we got a couple of those kegs. Those are called firkins. So they're 10-gallon English keg. I must have seen it somewhere, or I don't really remember honestly. But there's a thing called cask beer, which this is not. But cask beer is an English production method, and so they'll fill the kegs with beer that's still fermenting a little bit. It's kind of toward the very end of fermentation. They'll fill the casks with beer, or they'll fill it with finished beer and add a little bit of some kind of sugar and yeast to basically naturally carbonate it in the keg. So then they'll seal the keg and then naturally kind of finish it in the keg. So that's cask beer. It's really cool.
Right.
And it's still all over the place in England. It's got a lot of supporters. That's all they drink because it's got just a very unique quality to it. So if you ever go to the UK, definitely seek out some cask beer. And there are breweries in the US, craft breweries that just do cask beer. That's all they do. Really, really neat. Pretty rare, but the beers are unique. But so I think we got two of those things at first, those firkins, because we wanted to try that. Mm-hmm. So we tried to do it a couple of times and kind of fill it with fermenting beer, and didn't really work. It just didn't really. It's definitely a skill.
Right.
It's definitely got. You need to learn it, and I think at the time, we weren't successful the first couple of times we tried it, and I don't think we even served it in the tap room. We were just doing it in the back, experimenting. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of had this idea. Well, why don't we take the Kolsch and put some grapefruit juice in it or something, put some zest some grapefruit and kind of make it more of like an infusion. Let's try that, So then we did that, and we have it all. I have a log of all the casks, and I think we're above 550 in a row, which is over a decade. but every Saturday. But so it became. So we'll just fill it off of the bright tanks with the 5 tanks behind the bar there. Those are all finished beer tanks. So we'll just fill it out of those whatever we got in there, and then we'll we kind of have a brainstorm list of all these casks we want to make. But it's more of an infusion.
So how far out do your do your casks go? Like how long do they have to sit in the cask before you can bring them out?
It depends. One's like today. Today's the session IPA with blueberries and pears. So that's mostly just kind of a fruit infusion. So those can we filled this week. This one. So just a few days.
Oh, okay.
But if they have like spices or tea, we do tea sometimes. Like jalapeno. Any sort of things that'll benefit from time. Fruit really doesn't need it, but other things, it'll be up to about 4 to 6 weeks. We'll fill them. So
wow.
One we do sort of regularly is the jalapeno IPA.
Yes, I love that.
I love it too.
Yeah, I love that.
And so we do that occasionally. And now when we've done it like after a week, it's good. It tastes like jalapenos, no spice at all. But if you give it a few weeks, or maybe about 5 or 6 weeks, it starts to have a little kick to it.
Hey, have you had the sriracha? It's a sriracha IPA, and it actually comes so the beer can looks like a sriracha bottle.
Oh, perfect.
And oh man, it's got this nice little kick to it.
We did one cask that was a sriracha. I think it was IPA.
Really?
Yeah. When? 2 years ago.
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah,
I missed that boat.
Never miss a Saturday.
Ooh, I know. Okay, so question for you, and so it's been very, very enlightening sitting with you and chatting. However, I know a lot of people that are listening are going to want to know, like, can we come as a general customer and tour your facility?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how does that work?
Yeah, right now we have kind of there's a little blurb on the website, but generally it's Thursdays.
Okay.
4:00. That's kind of the time we have reserved. If anybody wants to tour, we can do it. It's free.
Okay.
And we'll just kind of walk through, the story of the brewery. Here's how we opened the brewery, and then walk through the production process. A lot of times we're actually brewing Wednesdays, Thursdays are kind of our brew days. And it's not every week, but generally those are our brew days. So a lot of times we'll be kind of finishing up the brew back there.
Oh,
but
okay.
Basically people just call or just at the bar here, just say, hey, I want to put me on the list for the tour, and we'll do it.
Got you. And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to.
All right.
However,
It's a trap.
I'm out of here.
okay, so I guess beer, and when there's basic ingredients that are common in all beers. Mm-hmm. So different breweries, they do something a little bit different with their beers in order to get them to taste specific to their brewery.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever go to another brewery and go, or have you been to another brewery and tasted it and said, man, this tastes like my Kolsch? like does that happen, or is there a code amongst breweries, like brewmeisters?
Yeah, I mean, I love going to breweries, of course, and
how come no beers taste like Pabst anymore? Pabst
does.
Yes. Pabst does, but I remember back in the day, Hams, Pabst, Blue. Wait, is it Blue Ribbon?
That's Pabst.
Okay, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Old style. Labatt's or something?
Yeah. So they all kind of sort of tasted the same back in the day, but now it's like the flavors, like you could tell the difference.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Yeah. I mean,
we're talking about high school beers.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fishing beers.
Yeah.
Fishing beers.
Yeah.
Well, your first question. I go to breweries as much as I can. Other breweries, of course, around Fairbanks.
Mm-hmm.
We have great breweries here. But anywhere I go, and tasting their beers, and you're kind of saying that the recipes are different, so the beers taste different, and that's true. But a lot of it is the quality of the ingredients. So
right.
the types of ingredients.
Now, but you guys purposely make your beers taste taste different, right? Like you purposely do that, right? I'm thinking.
Of course. I mean,
Okay.
we just, we make beer the way that I think is the best way to make it. And there's not just a standard, here's how you make beer production process.
Okay.
Every brewery makes beer differently.
Gotcha.
There's kind of a basic general, here's how you make beer kind of. But everybody takes different steps and commits different amounts of time to certain steps. And
okay.
And then
okay.
again,
okay.
ingredient choice makes a big deal. But the kind of secret recipe of our Kolsch, which is 95% Weyermann Pilsner malt and 5% Weyermann wheat malt. That's the grain. Very
Gotcha.
simple.
Gotcha.
But that's the best grain in the world, Weyermann malting from Germany. It costs more,
Gotcha.
much more than a American product. And I of course love American products. But if we're going to make the best possible Kolsch we can, we're going to use the same grain that they use,
Gotcha.
no matter the cost, essentially. But even more important than the recipe, I think, or at least it's 50-50, is that production process. Is all the steps you take. We do a lot of. This brewery has a lot of kind of German inspiration, not only in the production process, but also just kind of the social area. It's really just creating a space for people, like they do in German beer gardens, is just kind of creating a nice, beautiful space to hang out with your friends, you know?
Right.
But that production process, a lot of the things we do, not many people do, because we give it that extra week or two in the tank because it makes the beer slightly better. One of the instructors in the German brewing school I was at, his name's Michael. Mikhail. Mm-hmm. He would in his kind of lectures about beer and beer quality and things, he would always say, and that makes the beer more delicious. Or if you do that, then that'll make the beer less delicious.
Right.
So it's all about, like, if it can make the beer this much more delicious, just the tiniest little bit, then they do it.
Right.
And that's kind of what we do, is we spend a lot more time in the brew house, and then through the whole production process. Anything we can do to make it even this much better, we're going to do it.
Yeah, because I picture you guys back there like mad scientists sometimes. Just, how can we create something different?
Yes, yeah. And so you're trying to create something. We focus on just high quality. It sounds kind of cliche, but high quality, just drinkable beer that is the best iteration of that style. And we do a lot of classic styles like the Kolsch, American IPA. We don't name most of our beers. They're just the style. We don't put a lot of flash on them, and we don't name it the Chena River Kolsch or anything like that.
Gotcha.
We just call it this is our Kolsch. Hope you enjoy it. This is our version.
Right.
So it's really just focusing on the quality of the beer, really at all costs, and then just serving it directly. And we self-distribute. We take our beer around town. We get it all the way to the end ourselves, just for that reason.
Got you. Well,
one just really quick question, and hopefully you can answer this really quick, because I know Tilton's got us on a timer. Maybe.
No.
Okay.
No, we can flow as long as we need to flow.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Okay. So with the brewing, and without giving away any family secrets, how hard is it to nail that flavor every single batch? I mean, like I can tell, because I've been drinking your IPA for so long, I can tell when it's a new tank, and then after it's sat for a week or two, because you put them in these big tanks over here.
Yep.
But like, how hard is it to nail that every time? And then with that question, have you ever had a bad batch, and what did you do with it?
Yeah, so it is very hard to nail it every time, and the goal is to make the IPA the same every single time. So when you come and get your IPA, you know exactly what you're getting, and you're like, yep, that's it. The last thing you want is to vary.
Right.
At least much. So the goal is to not vary at all, but the reality is that's impossible, because you're it's this complicated process, and you're dealing with grain and hops and living yeast, and you're trying to create our when we're brewing, we have these brew logs we fill out, and you're filling out all the times and temperatures, constantly taking notes on every single batch to try and replicate, to try and do it exactly the same as you did it last time.
So what you're saying is, if the ingredients call for a cup of barley, a cup of hops, 5 gallons of water, and each time the same person or a different person uses those same exact ingredients, it's not guaranteed to
No.
Oh.
No, because
Oh,
I mean,
okay,
there's
okay.
many more steps kind of in there. You know, it's not just the ingredients. And you should take the tour, of course.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course,
But
of course.
but there's a lot of. It's a very manual process. There's no automation or anything. So we're moving liquids around, moving. We have timers going on how long it's going to do this, how long it's going to do that, and then just the quality of the raw materials. You know, the barley. It can change a little bit. So you'll end up with this IPA in front of us here is perfectly clear. It's beautiful. We don't filter any of our beers. We don't do anything. It's all just time for letting it settle out. They're served completely in the raw. We don't use any clarifiers that some breweries do. It's all just straight up out of the tank. But if the quality of the raw materials can change where it might be a little cloudy because of the beta glucan level in the barley, things like that you kind of can't control. But also, one of the most important things in beer production to me for a quality beer and flavor is the yeast health. Because yeast is the living thing it's a fungus, and it turns wort, which is beer before it's fermented. It turns wort into beer, and it's this miraculous thing.
So would yeast be like? So would yeast to beer be like the sourdough is to like the sourdough bread?
Starter kind
yes.
of? Yeah, that's a yeast culture.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yep, exactly.
all right.
And it's a living thing, and if it's happy and healthy,
And so yours dates back to how far?
I don't know. What we use is kind of a neutral American strain on not most of our beers, probably half of our beers. Our main house beers, Wilken IPA.
Okay.
We use a neutral, so it's neutral tasting. The yeast doesn't give off a lot of fruity flavors. So we use a neutral strain. So really the flavor of the grain and the hops really just it's very simple flavor-wise. It's the grain and the hops is kind of what we're going for.
Okay.
But the health of that yeast is very important. So you're trying to create an environment for it that's full of nutrients, the right nutrients, full of, at the beginning, you want lots of oxygen, and trying to make it so that yeast is just happy and it'll produce this great beer. If the yeast starts to get stressed by a variety of things, vitamin deficiency or oxygen, not enough oxygenation, or incorrect temperature management in the tank, then the yeast will start to get stressed, and then it'll start producing off flavors. All these byproducts happen during fermentation, so it can produce flavors that aren't great.
Okay.
Off flavors in beer, or it can kind of once the yeast is done consuming all the sugars that it can consume, it'll go dormant and kind of fall asleep in the tank and settle into the bottom. There's like a cone shape in the tank. The yeast settles down into that.
Right.
But if the yeast isn't healthy and happy, it might kind of go dormant or kind of fall asleep early.
Gotcha.
And then the beer will be left with this weird sweetness that it won't be like a clean beer.
Okay.
So it'll be great, and those kind of beers are all over the place.
Right.
And they're good.
Right.
But they're not great because they have this flavor that is just a kind of an odd sweetness because the yeast wasn't healthy enough to kind of finish the beer out.
Gotcha.
So we do techniques to try and make it as healthy an environment as possible, so the yeast goes all the way to kind of completion. We're doing things with our cooling system to make sure as the yeast is toward that very tail end, we turn our tank temperatures up so that the cooling system won't turn on at that very kind of critical end stage and shock the yeast into kind of going dormant. But there's all sorts of little steps that brewers do that are unique to them, and so we do everything we can to make the beer good.
So of all those processes, exactly. Now, so of all those processes, though, how long did it take you to learn those nuances?
Well, I think it was, initially those.
Like, were those mistakes that you were making when you first started out, and you put out a product that was probably not ready?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we were doing the best we could from batch one.
Okay.
But then constantly improving and going,
Gotcha.
There's this technique. Let's try it on this batch, and we're still messing with Wilken IPA.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, making little changes to our process just because we read some experiment or some study or we listened to some lecture. at a conference or something, and these techniques that people are like, yeah, this is what we do. This is why we do it.
Right.
And here's this data that shows that people prefer it. So we'll kind of take that, try it out. Not doing any monumental changes to the beers, but always trying to make them just kind of, for lack of a better word, better.
Gotcha.
But I'll touch on have we ever had a bad batch real quick? So we did have one bad batch, and we're on about our 1600th brew, so we had one bad one.
Oh, good Lord.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Ooh-wee.
But it was right at the beginning. I think it was the third or fourth brew. We made a porter. So we made our Kolsch IPA. I think Saison was one of our first brews, and then we made a porter. And we fermented it in the tank, and then the fermentation was done, and we were tasting it, and I was like, God, it seems really sweet. It seems really sweet and weird. But I wasn't sure if it was good or not. I was really, at that point, I was so up in my head about all this. I didn't really trust my palate, honestly. There was so much going on. I was like, I think it's good, but it seems sweet. Well, maybe it's good. I don't know. So I was really kind of nervous about it. And then we set a release date. It's probably I think it was a few weeks after we opened the brewery. Hey, we're going to come out with this porter now. And then kind of how it worked up to that point, I would come into the brewery. I was here a lot, but I was in here in the evening, and I was going to keg the beer so we could release it the next day. So then what I had done up to that point is I'd pour myself a pint of it out of the tank, and then just kind of set it there and drink that while I'm kegging, and just revel in the success of I can't believe I'm making my own beer, selling it. And then, but then I got done kegging a pallet of this porter, and I looked over and I hadn't even touched the pint. So that told me, usually that would have been gone by that point. So I was like, I don't think it's good. And so, take another sip, and I'm like, I wasn't sure. I couldn't really, like I said, I was up in my head too much.
Okay, so to clarify, what is a batch? Are we talking about one of these whole?
Those are, one batch is half of that. So we can do 2 batches into one of those tanks.
Oh, wow. So half of that you didn't think was good.
Yeah, so it was about 500 gallons is one batch. Yeah.
Wow.
So then
Good Lord.
So, but...
and you just can't drop it off at the transfer site.
No,
like when I mess up T-shirts, I take them to the transfer site.
Somebody will enjoy them.
Exactly.
So,
oops.
So, but from the beginning, I remember when we were about to open the brewery, we kind of, by we, me and Jessica and kind of our small little crew, we were, we said if we make a bad batch of beer, the only beer we're going to release is great beer, like straight up. We're not messing around. We're gonna. The bar is going to be up here. We're going to create the bar forever. We're not going to mess around. We're not going to put out anything that we don't love. So when we realized that I didn't love that beer, I think I kind of came to that realization. Then I stopped. I said we're not going to release it tomorrow. We need to think about what we're doing. And then couldn't really figure out what was happening. The beer did have quite a bit of weird sweetness to it, and then we kind of backtracked. So it sat in the tank while we were trying to figure out what to do. Then we backtracked and we found that when we installed this brew house, because once you install all this, it's never been used. It's brand new, custom made. So the first several brews you're trying to figure out how to use it all. So we found that there was a temperature probe that wasn't installed correctly, and the wiring was next to some other wiring causing interference. And so the temperature probe was reading about 15 degrees off, which had didn't affect the beers before it due to some other factors. But this porter had such a high temperature rest. It was supposed to be resting the mash was supposed to be resting at 156, but instead it was at about 170, which is way too hot.
Yeah.
And so then...
And just those 50-degree swing will...
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It ruined it, essentially. So,
oh,
wow. So then we had it sitting in the tank. What are we going to do? We didn't want to dump it down the drain. And just miraculously, this is when Great Harvest Bread was opening up, right after we opened. So then they called us, and they're like, hey... We want to make a bacon cheddar beer bread with your beer.
I'll be darned.
And we can use anything, if you got any old beers or whatever. We just need a little bit in every batch.
Trisha Craig to the rescue.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, so I was like, we have this batch that ended up really sweet. We're probably not going to use it, but we could trade it to you for sandwiches.
No doubt.
So then we took them a keg. They made a batch of this bread. It was amazing. So then over the course of the next couple months, we would just drop off kegs to Great Harvest, and they would, give us gift cards for sandwiches. And we'd have Great Harvest sandwiches every day for a couple years. Anyways, so it all worked out great, actually.
Okay,
how long does that beer last in one of those tanks?
Yeah.
It honestly can last forever. I mean, for many, many months. Because in those tanks, it's completely oxygen-free. So the three things that beer kind of ages beer is oxygen, heat, and light. So there's no oxygen in those tanks. It's 32 degrees in those tanks all the time. And it's obviously pitch black in there. So, so it's kind of in a suspended animation. Beer really starts to age once you package it. So if you put it in a keg or a can or a bottle, you're always trying to get all the oxygen out of that keg or can or bottle, all of it if you can, but you can never get it all out. There's always going to be a little bit of oxygen in that, even a couple molecules of oxygen in like the keg or the can. They'll just slowly degrade the beer. They'll kind of just oxidize the beer.
And that's
now, so you're saying even a molecule of oxygen?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
It'll do a lot of damage, honestly.
Oh, wow.
So if you have a lot of oxygen in your can or keg, it'll quickly age the beer. So
that's why your growlers have a drink me by date.
Yeah, the growlers.
Kind of.
Well, yeah. Honestly, with the growler, we're not purging any of the oxygen out. You should drink it within a couple of days.
Right.
But the cans go through a whole process of purging all the oxygen out of each can. The canning machine, puts a little foam on the bottom of the can first, then fills the beer underneath, try to push all the oxygen out. And so the cans, we'd have done all sorts of tastings on the cans, and 3-4 months, it tastes almost exactly the same as it did. Our canning machine is great.
Oh, wow.
Top
Nice.
notch.
Nice.
And even the stout is honestly better as time goes on.
Funny story about your cans. I went camping not last summer, but the summer before, and I took a bunch of your HooDoo IPA with me, and I had forgotten one in a cooler, and it kind of just sat in the camper until the next time we used it about a month later, and no crap, I opened that up after I chilled it off, and it tasted like an IPA.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I was amazed.
It's funny, our old canning line, before we got this one in 2021, right after COVID, but in our old canning line, it was very, very manual. We used to do just the Kolsch and the stout in cans, and just very manual, very slow, but that was okay. We weren't canning the IPA. It was only sold here. It was just a thing that we did, Kolsch and stout. And then COVID kind of changed all that. We started canning IPA, canning everything.
Yeah, I remember that.
But the quality of that was a much less technologically advanced canning line. And so, we would can the Kolsch or the IPA at first before we got the new one. And I mean, even a week later, the beer wasn't that great in the cans. And so we would be canning every week to replenish. Just the quality that canning machine just couldn't do it.
Right.
So it used to be the freshness was not great. So we'd again can all the time just to do little batches.
Right.
But now this machine has completely changed it. It can just can perfectly, and the beers can last. We try and have no more than about a month old beer anywhere here. So it's very fresh when it leaves here.
Right.
But it's great for many months, honestly, afterwards. Yeah.
Right. Well, okay, so this is our first step. This is our first episode. So we're just flowing right now. All right, and so as long as you are fine with talking, then we're just going to flow until the questions run out. Okay. So I have a question for you. Mentorship.
As he checks his clock.
Do you have a mentorship program? Like if somebody is interested in brewing or creating their own brewery, like could they come here and ask you questions or ask Paul questions or ask anybody questions about how do I get involved with brewing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm more or less open book. I love to talk about the brewery and what we've done. And looking back, it's just a massive accomplishment that I'm just to be sitting where we're sitting and doing what we're doing. And yes. I've done that with a lot of help from not only family and friends, but just the Fairbanks community.
Yes.
Just people helping out, saying, I can help you do that. Oh, here's how you do that the best. Fairbanks is a very great place for that.
Yes, it is. It is.
I know when Carrie was opening Black Spruce over here, we had been in touch over the years before that, and he said, I think we're going to do it. We're going to open this brewery.
Right.
And I was like, great, you should.
Yeah.
Let me know how I can help.
Yeah.
And so we talked over beers many times, and he's
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what, though. So I don't mean to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but I remember, because I didn't post a picture, but I remember walking into Black Spruce, and it was you, Zeb,
no, yeah,
and you guys were all there at Black Spruce, and you guys were having beers. I was like, man, this is some unity right here.
yeah.
Yeah, this is unity.
Yep.
And so that's what this community needs. It's not like a us against them against us.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody is in this, and there's enough beer to go around for everybody.
Yeah, and when Black Spruce opened, and then when Lat 65 opened, hasn't really changed anything around here. It honestly has made the community just a bigger beer drinking community.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And it's just a great thing,
Yeah.
And now I was really excited for Black Spruce to open because I love to go drink beer at breweries. I love drinking beer at my brewery.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like going to other breweries too.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was super excited about that. And,
Exactly.
I just saw Josh from Lat 65. He's the brewer at Lat 65. He just walked in. So we're constantly just hanging out at each other's breweries, and it is a great community.
Yeah.
Josh or Carrie,
Yeah.
they'll run
And
they'll run out of an ingredient, and we'll do the same.
And so,
hey,
you
do
know-
you have some of that with you, and we'll help each other out.
And I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't mention Ken and Big Delta Brewing Company, because
Oh, yeah.
whenever I'm down in Delta Junction,
Yeah,
we make it a point to stop at Big Delta Brewing Company
of course.
and have some beers down there too
Yeah,
as well.
They had
Great
good beer,
beers.
and they
Yeah.
had good pizza coming out
Great
there
beer,
too.
yeah.
I love their pizza.
Oh yes, exactly.
Good spot.
Definitely. Okay, so are we about to end this? Because if we are, I have one more question for you, and it's totally out the blue,
Okay.
and it's probably going to catch you by surprise.
All right.
But we all have our why. Why we do what we do. We all have our why. What's your why?
I guess I would say, honestly, life is short, and I always looked at it. I'd like to do something that makes a difference in people's lives, and something I can enjoy and be proud of.
Yes.
And I was always fascinated by imagining like having a business and being able to make a small change or introduce a new product and just watch people's reactions and things like that. So I think it's just life satisfaction, just trying to enjoy life, because life is stressful. There's a lot coming at us all from different angles.
Right.
I love the community involved in kind of the German beer gardens, just kind of exactly what we're doing right here, is just hanging out and talking over beers. I just love that.
Right.
And so it kind of turned into like I want to do that. I want to provide that.
Right.
And I think I could make that difference. And
Right.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well,
but-
no.
Yeah.
I mean, look here. That answer is. I mean, that's your answer.
Yeah.
So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing us to occupy this space and for allowing us to even do this. And so this is our first episode, and it's going to grow from here. I have been messaged by several folks. VMAX, you're going to be next, sir.
right.
You're going to be so VMAX is like, I want to be on. So we're going to get a couple of guest speakers up in here.
Yeah.
People that provide a positive impact in the community, and who like to have a conversation over 36 ounces of beer. So
I love
so
it.
thank you. And so I will say this right here though. So we got so involved with this conversation, and you had a lot to say that I forgot to add in all my little sound effects. I forgot to add in all my sound effects. I'm sorry, but this conversation was too good. So
Yeah,
we'll
that's
just have to figure out how to edit that in to the episode before we post it online.
You mentioned the clarifiers, which, if I remember correctly, that stuff's made from fish swim bladders.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. And I know they've got additives for trying to save a bad batch. Like, the lines got infected or whatever.
Yeah.
That's and that additive is basically the signature flavor of a very large brewery. because it gives it kind of an apple taste.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that.
You never use the additives.
No,
Good.
we really use no additives of any kind. Yeah.
But that's one thing I remember a long time ago. It's like, yeah, there's this certain thing you add to beer. Your lines have like a affection of some sort, and it gives it a slight apple taste. And there's a certain brand that may have had a little marketing issue last year. That's their signature flavor.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, we generally, there's the Bavarian purity law of 1516 called Reinheitsgebot. It's a law in southern Germany from the year 1516 that dictates that only ingredients in beer can be barley, water, hops, yeast. So we do that most of the time, for a lot of our beers. I really just don't like adding any sort of extracts or any sort of enzymes or the clarifiers. It's just, this is basically how they've made beer for centuries. We just have shinier cleanable equipment. But we do on some occasions, we're not really subscribing to that Reinheitsgebot. We put sugar in the stout, which you can't do, but we do it. And we made the Brute IPA, which we're going to make here again shortly. And so that requires an enzyme that kind of helps break down all the sugars to simple sugars so that the yeast can ferment it. So it's very, very dry. So in these special occasions, we'll do it, but yeah, we don't add any clarifiers. Yeah.
So the Brute IPA.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the breweries around here do it, and you're all allowed to you get basic recipe, and then are allowed to make little changes to make it your own, or.
And you're talking about the Pink Boots?
Yep.
Yeah. So the Pink Boots is basically they'll you can make whatever you want, like anything, but they'll have there's a blend of hops called the Pink Boots Hop Blend. So each year they'll get a committee together to create this blend of several hops. And so normally what breweries do is you'll buy some of those hops, which we have, and then you'll use that in the beer. So what we usually focus on some sort of an IPA just to showcase those hops, which is what most people do. But yeah, you can make anything you want. So we a couple of years ago made the Brewed IPA. I think it was 2 years ago for the first time. And there's no recipe. They don't give you a recipe. You make anything. So we also did the Belgian IPA. Was I think 3 years ago for the Pink Boots. So that was just a really fruity IPA with a Belgian yeast. And that turned out very good too. It was really, really great.
And for the tourist.
What's that?
And for the tourist, the best way to take beer home on a plane.
Good question.
Boom.
Yeah.
I just put it in my suitcase.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Cans,
and that's when I'm going down to Seattle or Anchorage. I'm not flying across the country.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly the best way is cans, and just pack them really good so they don't get bumped. Really, really, it's going to take a pretty big bump, but it does happen. Right. I'll usually take each one and wrap it in a grocery bag, just in case it starts to leak. It doesn't get really on anything unless it completely.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Just helps a little bit in case one goes. But we went to a wedding in Arkansas last year, and I flew a whole cooler of Kolsch IPA, New England IPA, to bring to the wedding. And then we got down there, and we were staying at an Airbnb with 6 or 7 people, Fairbanks, all of us from Fairbanks. And we finally get to the Airbnb after flying all night and all day. And we get there, and we're like, well, let's just have a beer.
Oops.
So we open up the cooler, and
oops.
And everything survived, but we completely drank all of it.
Yeah, exactly. Before the wedding. Yeah, exactly. Oops.
So then I told my friend it was I'm bringing HooDoo to your wedding, and then the next day he's like, "Where's it at?"
Where's the HooDoo?
Yeah,
we drank it all.
It's in my belly. It's in my belly.
Yeah, we all flew 3,000 miles to just drink beer.
It's
drink
all
the
good.
HooDoo.
It's all
There's
good.
nothing wrong with that.
It was great. No regrets.
So I've worked myself through this flight here, but I do have a question though. And so this is for all the other bougie. Yeah, I'm kind of bougie. I am. And when I eat my sushi, before each different selection of sushi, I take some ginger to cleanse my palate. Is that Is that recommended when you do a flight of beer to cleanse your palate before you go on to the next glass?
I mean, I would say just probably some water.
Okay.
Just some water.
Okay.
A lot of people do that. But
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe some hop water.
maybe some hot water.
That doesn't cleanse your palate, though.
Yeah. I think water. A lot of people like when you're doing tastings to kind of reset your trying to think of the word, but your nose.
Yeah, because I know when
Yeah.
when I toured the Jack Daniels, and at the end of the tour, and we got to sample all the whiskeys, we had water, and that's what we did.
And if you also just have like a cup of coffee beans, and you kind of take a big sniff off that, it kind of resets everything. A lot of people will do that too. If you really want to get into it and taste it, for whatever reason, coffee is just really good at kind of clearing everything out and kind of resetting it.
Got you. Okay. Okay, not a problem. Are we still flowing? Are we about to end or what? Because this has been very, very educational.
Been very
for tasting,
educational. I think it's
beer,
been a very good first
the one thing I
episode.
always remember was do the IPA last.
Do the IPA last, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause-
Just generally want to do the lighter beers first, and
Yeah, because once you hit the hops of the IPA, you're done.
yeah,
All you're
exactly.
gonna taste it-
Your
everything
palate
tastes
is a
like
little,
water.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
That's a way to make a lot of the major brands better. You know, you have a really nice IPA beforehand, and you don't notice the taste of the other beers after that. It's just like drinking water.
Just hydrating.
So what you're saying is, if you start with the IPA, you end with the IPA,
That
because that works for me.
No, you start with the IPA.
that
just keep
or
on rolling with the IPA.
yeah,
Or
exactly.
if you're low on money, you start with you have a couple of good IPAs from here, and then you can drink. I mean, you could probably drink Old Mud.
I'm not like an IPA
And be
guy
okay.
though, man. I don't see all the hoppiness.
It's an acquired taste.
I love it. I used to be a big Hefeweizen fan, and then a friend of mine turned me on to IPA.
Well, it's
Actually,
like,
right before you guys opened up, and then you guys opened up, and we came here for the first time. I was like, I'm gonna try the IPA, and well, I've been hooked since.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah, I think
tasty.
I think the IPA is like your best seller though.
Yeah,
isn't it?
the Kolsch and IPA are really neck and neck all the time. I mean, it's really
Yeah,
just,
I'm stuck in a rut, man. I'm stuck in the Kolsch rut.
Yeah.
Well, except whenever you guys do the Goza,
Oh yeah.
like a Goza is my thing. But why do you only sell it in the little 12-ounce little?
It's expensive. It's a tough one.
But
Yeah.
but I'll pay for a pint.
Okay.
I'm good with a pint of Goza.
pay for a pint.
I'll pay for a pint because if I drink two of them, I'm drinking a
Yeah.
pint and what? A pint and a few ounces more,
Yeah, I
anyways,
guess
right?
So, yeah.
what's the alcohol content
Yeah.
of the Goza?
That's like 5.
Oh, that's not
Yeah,
bad at all.
it's not bad. Yeah, it's like
But it's expensive
here.
to make.
It's
Is that what it
it's
is?
a little it's difficult to make. It's a little more difficult, a little more risky to make.
Oh, is it really?
Because it's a sour beer.
yes, exactly.
And we don't, kind of what we were talking about earlier. We don't just use a sour culture. We don't just because you can buy a liquid a sour culture you could just kind of dump in.
Right.
We do kind of this traditional German method. So we'll collect the liquid, the wort, as normal in the kettle, kind of like with every beer. We'll collect the wort after the mash and things. And so now we have the liquid, and then we'll run that through a heat exchanger, cool it down to about 108 degrees, and then we'll lower a bag of Pilsner malt from Germany. So all over the grain is lactobacillus bacteria.
Oh,
So we lower that in there.
Okay.
And then we push CO2 into the kettle, into the top to get as much oxygen out as possible. So you want this anaerobic souring to happen. So the lactobacillus on the grain then kind of just goes into this nice, warm, sweet liquid, and it'll start to multiply and basically infect this wort. And so then we monitor the pH, which is the acidity of it. And over about 12 to 48 hours, we'll be taking pH readings out of there, and the pH is dropping as this lactobacillus bacteria is giving off lactic acid and making it more and more acidic. And then once it hits this pH that we're looking for, we'll take the grain out and then boil it, and that'll kill any bacteria.
Wow.
So that's how we sour it. It's definitely a lot more work and a lot more risk involved there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when I arrived in Fairbanks. So I work for the government, Department of the Army Civilian. So that's why I'm here. I arrived here in 2018. That previous year in 2019, it was the only time that I've been here that you guys had the beer festival at the Carlson Center.
Oh yeah.
So it was the beer festival and the hot wing festival.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a matter of fact, shout out to the fire food truck Miguel, because there has not been another beer festival or beer tasting and hot wing competition since that 2019. Because 2020, of course, COVID happened,
Yeah,
right?
we all know what happened.
So as of now, the fire food truck, they're the reigning hot wing champions of Fairbanks until they have another one. Is there like plans to have another one of those beer tasting events?
I don't know.
Because that was amazing. Because matter of fact, I still have my little sampler glass that they gave you when you walked in, and you went around to all the different beer places tasting beer.
Yeah, I mean there should be. That's for sure. It'd be nice. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's the big one in Anchorage in January that was the Barley Wine Festival. That's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
That's been going on forever. And when they started doing that one at the Carlson Center, I was hoping that would kind of stick.
Exactly.
Pretty
Well,
cool.
yeah, because COVID happened, and they canceled a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's a good question. Good question. I'm not sure.
Man, that would be amazing if we had something like that again.
Yeah.
It would be amazing.
Were you at the Downriver Beer Festival?
Yep.
I remember
Yeah.
having your beer there. That was a fun one too. They didn't have hot wings.
Yeah.
Wait. So the Downriver, is that the one that's
they do
in
it well.
between Paxton and Delta Junction?
No, the one I went to was at the Botel.
The Botel. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Botel.
And then they do the salmon jam at Alaska Land at the
I've
Salmon
never heard
Bake.
of that one.
Yeah, salmon jam's a great one. That's
All
actually been. I think they've done that just for a few years, past few years. But it's awesome. It's
gonna have to
in
look
kind
into
of
that.
the salmon bake area.
Obviously during the summer when the
Yeah,
salmon
it's
bake
kind of
is
July.
going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Nice.
Have you ever considered doing an Equinox beer?
Oh,
Definitely have considered that. Yeah, because we do the solstice beers. Yeah, it's
Oh,
on the list. I
Bobby,
think-
why hasn't there been an Equinox beer?
I know you're exactly right.
I mean,
Maybe we'll do it this year. It's not too late.
Challenge accepted.
you got a month for this.
Yeah.
Maybe next Equinox, but you
Yeah.
got like a month for this one. But it's like, how much extra work goes into the solstice beers versus normals?
It's really just planning. Honestly, at this point, it's kind of like, well, we're trying to do a dark beer for the winter solstice, light colored beer for the summer solstice. So then it's kind of, what do we want to make?
Okay.
The Imperial Stout, the dark beer, is the past few years is aged for a year in barrels, so we'll brew that a year ahead of time. So next year is the one that comes out in December. Next year has already been in barrels for a couple months, and then the summer version, which has been Belgian triple, Belgian quad. This past year we did an Imperial IPA,
Which was amazing, by the
yeah,
way.
very good. Thank you.
That.
I'm not sure what we're doing this year. We kind of have a few ideas, but I think that one we're doing a little more flexibility as far as what to make, as long as the color of the beer is light in color, kind of for that summer solstice. We want to make have a little more leeway to do barrel aged or not. We've done Chardonnay barrel aged, triple, and again that IPA, Imperial IPA, but that one. Yeah, it's just kind of planning ahead a little bit. And
Okay, so when you say because you say we, so how many minds are back in the lab creating these ideas? So is it you, Paul? Is it who? So who all is involved with these ideas? When you say we,
Yeah, I say we as in the company. We HooDoo.
Okay.
I don't like saying, and I don't do it on purpose, but I don't really like saying I, because it is it seems weird to me because I'm not doing everything.
I do the same thing too.
It is we,
Yeah.
because it's a team effort and it's
Right.
a family effort, and it's ideas from everybody.
Okay.
We have.
So you do solicit ideas, or you take input from your employees.
From you or you, any of you
Oh,
guys.
okay,
I take
okay.
ideas from everybody, whatever.
Okay.
Just shoot them out there, and
Yeah.
then we'll kind of we don't have any.
But like
we
if
have very little structure. As
yeah,
far
but if
as
I
kind
give
of
you like an
planning.
idea, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get like distribution, what's it called? If
Kickback
there's an oil rig in my
Royalties?
royalties. I'm not gonna get royalties, right? Like for every beer.
Maybe.
Okay. Because look here,
It depends on
look
how
here.
good the idea
Careful
is.
now,
exactly.
because you got people coming in off the street with ideas, and if you implement them, hey, can I get my cut?
Yeah.
How many pints did you sell this week?
Yeah. But it's a team effort. We just we'll get ideas and then it's just kind of whatever sticks, whatever kind of makes traction is like, well, what if we did this? What if we do this? It's, it all comes down to kind of our management team really is Jessica and I, Paul, Ariel, taproom manager, and then Sarah.
Right.
That's kind of our core 5 people that we're kind of making those final decisions of what to kind of keep moving forward on.
So I'm going to tell you, man. So what I noticed when I come here is, and so this is just me on the outside looking in. It's like everybody is just so happy and cheerful.
I know.
And so that's good.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and you don't really have a high turnover rate.
No, we don't.
As opposed to there's a lot of other businesses that I go to and I frequent, and I notice that there's a pretty high turnover rate. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you don't have a high turnover rate says a lot about you and how you run your business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As a manager, as a leader.
Right.
So,
I mean, I'm pretty focused on trying to make it an enjoyable place for people to work.
Right.
Because that's again, life is short.
Right.
I want to have not necessarily have a great time every day. Every job is difficult sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's trying to do what I can to make our employees, if they're coming here every day to work, just what can I do for you to make this fun? And good morning, and positive attitude, and I'm pretty generally a pretty positive guy about life, and I'm just trying to exude that, and thank you for coming into work, and I'll do my part, and you do yours, kind of thing. So it's a mutual kind of agreement, and I think we have a very good culture around here.
yes, you do. You do.
Just due to our managers and just everybody's. Everybody's into it and loves HooDoo more than anything, and really just wants to keep it going. And we come up with crazy ideas, and we're like, let's do that. Let's try that.
Hey, and kudos to your holiday decorating team, because they really go all out.
Yeah.
Like from Halloween forward, Thanksgiving, Christmas. All the decorations, man, are just like boom.
Thank you. I love it too. I love it too. It's amazing.
Yeah, because you come in and you're like, you get all in the spirit. It's like, okay. And then you're looking up all over the place and you're seeing all the decorations.
You're forgetting the biggest one of them all.
What's that?
Oktoberfest.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, exactly. Oh yes. All
Fantastic.
the blue and white all over the place.
So it's starting in September, not Halloween.
What do they call
Yeah.
it? Lederhosen?
Yeah, Lederhosen
Yeah.
are what the fellas are wearing, and then the dirndl is the dress.
Okay, that's the
Yep.
dress. Okay.
Yep.
Look here. So if you listeners are still with us, because it's been an hour and 30 minutes. So if you guys are still with us, kudos to you. But look here, we're still rolling, and we're gonna definitely have to come back and invite Bobby back for a part 2. This isn't over, but you guys still want to keep on rolling.
I got to check on what happened at my kid's doctor appointment very soon, so I do need to call it. But you guys can keep rolling without me if you want.
Okay, well then look here. I'm about to end it on.
But I definitely want to see Bobby back. I think that
absolutely.
would be great.
Well,
I think there's a
I'm
lot
here.
more that we can talk
Yeah, it'd be
about
fun.
and really get to know you and HooDoo and.
yeah, I'd love to come back.
Also,
we can talk about.
Real quick while we're on the X show here, back to your employees and what you do here. I have never ever walked in here once and had an employee what are your service make me feel like they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
They're always super nice. Always like, hey Brandon, how you doing? They remember my name, and I really like that.
It's awesome.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm about to start the outro music again.
Yeah, go
so
ahead,
we
go
good?
ahead, go ahead. Yeah, we're good.
All right. So I'm about to start again. All right. So for our first episode of 3060 Podcast, I would like to thank Bobby, the owner of HooDoo, for a very enlightening conversation. We had a blast talking to you. This isn't the end, so this is only part 1 of the conversation.
Sounds good.
So 3060 Podcast. My name is Tilden.
Jeff?
And Brandon.
And Look here, you guys stay tuned. We have some amazing guests lined up for you coming from HooDoo Brewery Studios. The HooDoo Brewery Studios. Who else can say that about a podcast? We're broadcasting from a freaking brewery.
And it's, kind of a studio now.
And we are out. Peace.